Welcome to the Talking About Life podcast. I am your host, Ian Lipkowski. As always, we start the show with gratitude. We're incredibly grateful to the universe, God, source, magic, whatever it is that's higher, that is a higher power. We thank that higher power. If you do so, believe in it. We also thank the guest. If there's no guest, there's no show. So 100%, we got to thank the guest. And who's listening right now? It's you. It's you, the listener. It's you, the audience. So we also always thank the audience because with no audience, if we do a podcast and there's no audience around to hear it, does the tree make a sound? I don't know. It's philosophical, but here we are. We got a guest on today. We got Craig. We're so grateful to have Craig on the show. Craig is the leader of MetaRides. He has been someone who I've been talking to back and forth on Twitter, and now it's X, and we have a good connection on there. And I think everyone's going to be excited to hear from him. But you may want to reach out to him as well. Beyond that, Craig, again, happy to have you on the show. How are you doing today, and how are you doing in general?
I am doing fantastic. Thanks for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here.
My pleasure. So we always say the show is about passion and positivity. You can talk about whatever you want, always geared around those focus and those lenses, though. What are you passionate about? What are you positive about? And if you want to tell us, how did you get into it and why?
So what am I passionate about? I'm passionate about, obviously, my family. They're obviously my number one passion in life. I have three amazing children who are all in their 20s now and just about off on their own life's journey. But, I stay connected to them every day, and they are what drives me to do what I do every day. Why I wake up in the morning, and why I'm grateful for just being on the earth, right? What else am I passionate about? I'm passionate about suicide prevention, and obviously for personal reasons, I lost a 14-year-old to suicide back in 2012. So from being cyberbullied online, and so I'm passionate about suicide prevention, and I'm passionate about domestic violence, raising awareness for anti-domestic violence. So again, not personal reasons, but a very close friend of mine lost his daughter to a domestic violence situation in 2018. So they are my passions in life, to educate people on the pros and cons of suicide and domestic violence.
Now, I think that's incredibly admirable. Myself, I grew up with thoughts of suicide since I was like 7 years old, going to therapists. I'm here. I didn't go that way, but I can relate to someone like you who's lost somebody, as somebody who was thinking about doing it for a long time growing up. And that's also part of like the decision, and someone who's in that shoes, like how it would affect people around me. Can I deal with this another day? It's this feeling, or for me, it was of like, I just can't handle this anymore kind of thing. It's overwhelming. But I would think probably it wasn't about you. Um, but just in the shoes that you're in, I guess something I would ask is, for someone like me who, I didn't end up going through with it. What is the message? Like, is there a takeaway? Is there something you learned? Do you want to say something to people who are cyberbullying? Do you want to say something to people on the other side? Just because I feel like you probably are the perfect person or one of them to get the message out. What do these people need to hear on both sides?
I think the important message we need to send, as you said, there's two parts to this. There's the bullies, and there's or the victims and the perpetrators, right? And I think to the perpetrators, I would say, treat people the way you want to be treated. Have respect for yourself and respect for other people, and that goes a long way in growth. I mean, a lot of the circumstances around, what I went through was because of bullying. So, children at that age, and youth and teenagers at that age, they aren't educated enough on the effects of their word, right? What they say, what they do, their actions. Um, they're not they're not educated enough to understand the level of impact that they can have on another person, right? So, and to the victims, the people who are being bullied, I would say to them, control what's within your control, right? What other people think and say and feel about you is a reflection of who they are, not a reflection of who you are. That's a reflection of their personality. And I would say to them that one of the things I say to all of the people that I speak to through the volunteering that I do is that every scar that you carry on your body, mind, heart, and soul is a trophy you've been given for every battle you've won. Right? And at the end of the day, you're still here. So every battle that's ever been given to you, you have won 100% of those battles to this day because you're still here. So it's really hard though. I mean, there's so much goes into, the mentoring of both victims and perpetrators, and you could sit down for hours and go through techniques and ideas and things. But I think that's the main catalyst is, treat people the way you want to be treated. And, to the victims, like I said, control what's within your control. You can't control the word or the feelings of another person.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. It's to sum it in a quote, it's like life is, 99%, how you react to things, and only like 1 or 10% what happens. However you want to phrase the quote. I've heard it
Correct.
both ways, but it's largely how you react. You can't control what happens. You can control how you react, and that's all the
Yeah,
difference of what you experience in life.
exactly.
Um, just listening to you talk, you sound so strong, fortified. I imagine it probably took you a minute to get, from
Oh.
where you were until now.
Mm.
How are you so strong? Like, how did you cope with this? Like, did you have to go to therapy? Did you have to meditate? Like, how do you withstand when something so tragic happens
Yeah.
to you?
So it took me probably a good year to come to the realization that, it wasn't my fault. And I kept saying to myself, why? What could I have done differently? And it took me a long time to get to the point of realization that I couldn't. Right? That she obviously wasn't in a position where she wanted to talk to anybody, and we have, our children and stepchildren and godchildren, everybody that's connected to us, that's in a child role, and my role as a parent. We've brought every one of them up knowing that this is their safe place, right? If you need somebody to talk to, you come to us. It is judgment free, and we deal with whatever problems you have, and we work out a solution for you. That's how I've raised all of my children. So I have a very strong connection to all of my children, and they're on the first point of contact whenever they've done something or they need something or something's going on. So, but in this situation, obviously, it was too much, and it was just a fateful day that July 27th, 2012 is a date that is now etched in my mind. But I did therapy. Yes, I did therapy every week for a year. But what changed everything was I was in a conversation with another person who had been affected by suicide also, and they said to me, "Get your hands on a copy of this book. It's called The Four Agreements by an author named Don Miguel Ruiz." And they said, "Read the book." So I read the book, and I read it again and again and again. I think I've read it about 40 times now. But since the day I read that book at the end of the first year, which was probably mid 2013, it literally changed my life. It changed the way I viewed the world. It changed my attitude towards other people and how I viewed their opinion of me. And it was at that point where I realized that there was nothing I could do. We raised our children in a way that to come to us, and that it's a safe place and they can always speak freely, judgment free, and that there would never be any consequences for it, but we would work together on whatever the problem was in coming up with a solution for it. And it's like I still battle with it every day. Right, I've got a tattoo on my right arm with her favorite things in the world were constellations of stars and the color yellow. So I have a tattoo on my arm, and the tattoo in the center is filled with yellow, and it has her name and the date on it. So every day I wake up, that's my reminder of her legacy. And so I live with that every single day. But you learn to deal with it. I mean, the pain never goes away, but you learn to deal with what happened, and the fact that I had 3 other children that needed me to be strong for them as well. That was probably the main reason that that I got through it so quick. And honestly, I've only been in a position where I felt comfortable to talk about it for probably the last 2 or 3 years. It's really like it took me a long time to want to speak freely about it and want to tell my story to other people, or tell our story to other people. It's not just my story. So, but it had a big impact on us and on other people. So, it's one of those things. But I'm in a good place with it now. Um, I've accepted what happened and come to terms with the fact that, like I said, I believe that, it was out of my control and I can only control what's within my control.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this. I would say the same. I would say you've come to the right place. If my reassurance is anything, obviously I haven't experienced it, but just as a person, I would agree with you. I would also say kudos, the four agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz. That is huge for me.
Hmm.
That came to me earlier in my transition of high school to college. Like I told you, I was struggling with some things. I used to cut myself. I had some eating problems. I've had drug problems. I've gotten into literally physical fights, verbal fight. Like I had my own kind of journey, and four agreements I agree was huge. Don't hurt others, be impeccable with your word, like be intentional, all these different
Hmm.
lessons. I forget exactly how it's worded. There's only four of them, but you know what I mean. You better than me. You read it 40 times. I think I read it like
Yeah, I
one or
mean
two.
it's a
Um,
fantastic book, and like I said, and I'm not one of these people that I don't I don't partake in self help books, but I didn't see this
you
as
should.
I didn't see this as a self help book. I saw this as a motivational book, and
Right.
he doesn't. It's not like it's not like a religious book where they push an agenda onto you, right? Where this was a book where he was talking from his own experiences and what he knew about life and giving you his story. Now, whether you wanted to accept it or not was up to you. And
Right.
the first part of that book, if you remember, talks about your belief system. And it tells you that what you believe in today is not your belief. It's a belief that's been enforced on you by society and by your parents. If your parents, and I'll give you the example, if your parents raise you in the church, right? By the time you get to 18 or 21 and you're an adult and you can make your own decisions, you may not believe in the church. You may not believe in God. You may have your own belief in the religious system. So the belief that is being instilled in you is your parents' belief that they've pushed onto you. Right.
Yep.
So, and that's just one way to look at it. And it's the same with, like I said to my kids after I read the book, they say to you, don't cross the street when there's a red traffic light. Right. So you believe that you can't cross the street when there's a red traffic light. Well, of course you can. There's consequences if you do, but you can. You don't have to believe that they've told you you can't. So that's just a scenario that I explain to my children. Now, there's a consequence with every action. So, so it's either positive or negative consequence, and you deal with the outcome at the time. But I love the book, and it was so good. And the biggest thing to me were that you said one of them is be impeccable with your word and speak with integrity were the two things that I got the most out of that book. And the other main thing was um, don't take anything personally.
Yep. That's huge.
Yeah, that was the biggest points I got out of the entire book. I mean, the whole book is amazing, but those 3 points were, um, very, very, touching to me because, especially that don't take anything personally because I took everything personally after what happened. I thought everything was my fault. I thought I could have done something else. I kept asking myself, why? Why? What could I have done differently for a long period of time? So,
Yeah, so let me ask you this. I was going to kind of get to this. So you kind of answered part of it that you seem not religious, but are you spiritual to the sense that what are the spiritual answers to tragedy is that it's the answer is for you to do what you're doing now. Like that we're not, people that have like a soul. We are souls that have a body, and that in this grand play where we're immortal, so to speak, we live many lives, it's reincarnation, we go through these different stories, and that the quote unquote reason for this would be to have the effect that it had, to show people this darkness, and that things like this will keep happening until people like you, people like me, react to it in a way that gets the knowledge to the world, that puts the spotlight and goes, hey, look at this. This is happening. This doesn't have to happen. We need to change. And that's why it happens. It happens because it's like this, it's a red flag. It's a flare. It's an explosion, so to speak. It's something, oh my God, like it has that effect because the world keeps going every day,
Yep.
especially in America, school shootings, bullying, like the root of what you said, it could have so many different, someone could get bullied and turn it on themselves. Some people get bullied and they turn it on the whole school. So it's like maybe the reason it happens is because it has to happen to someone who's like me, who's like you, that says, not like, fuck it, but says, we have to do something.
Correct.
Would agree with that? And
100%.
did you have any religion before this or after this? Because I feel like the answer is no, but I just want to confirm.
I do not. So in Australia, religion isn't big here. So like, it's not, people here just don't believe in religion. They don't go to church. Like, I'm not a believer, but I'm not a non-believer. I'm a neutral person. So I don't judge anybody that believes, and I don't judge anybody that doesn't believe. So
You think there's something bigger?
I think there's something bigger for sure. What it is, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think there's something that I think everything happens for a reason. And I think everybody is put on the earth for a purpose. Everyone has a purpose. A lot of people never find that purpose, but everyone is put here for a purpose. Now, after what happened, 10 years ago and since, I believe that my purpose now is to leave a legacy for everybody else to be kind to each other. That's what it's about for me. I will wave at a stranger 20 times a day. I'm the person who will, now go up to a homeless person and ask them if they're okay. If they're doing okay. Is there anything I can do for you? Whereas beforehand, I was that same judgmental person as everybody else. Walk past the homeless person and not put my head down when I'm walking in the street and not worry about what the strangers think. But I realised that you can't take life for granted, because tomorrow it can change in an instant, and it did for us. It changed in an instant, and you just can't take things for granted anymore,
Yeah. Every moment's precious. I understand too. Not I understand not exactly the same thing, but we lost a baby pretty late into a pregnancy. Different, but what's the same is that in that one moment, things just everything completely
Yep.
changes. Obviously it's a baby shoes, and but it was about 7 months in. So people don't understand. I tell this to some people, and they're like, lots of people have miscarriages. I go, it's not a miscarriage. A miscarriage doesn't happen that late.
Correct.
This happened after we ran tests, we did this, we did that. They checked for all these things, and we said, Doc, is everything okay? Can we tell the family? And they said, scream it from the top of the hill. And then not so long after that, it's over. So, it was a different thing. And, that's still with me. And I'm not comparing, it's just to find the sort of compassion. You know what I mean?
But
I
you're
hate
right,
to
though.
compare and go, oh, is this better? Is this worse? But it's like, I just try to connect where I can. And that's my door to kind of connect to this type of tragedy. But I get it. Everything just, you don't see it coming, and your whole life becomes different, and you have to carry it. You have to explain it. People are asking you about it multiple times. You have to explain it over and over again. And yeah, for me, it took a while to like get out of the pit I was even in, to like start walking forward again, to live life. So
Look, and I
I
get
would
it
say I
too.
commend you for that.
I get it too, because we also had we did have a miscarriage, but it was like 14 weeks. So it's not as much as going into a 7-month pregnancy, because, you've seen the heartbeat, you've seen the shape of the baby, you've seen
Right,
everything at
right,
7 months. It is a living thing. It is a
right,
living child, and to
right,
lose it at 7 months, or even worse, a lot of people lose it and it's stillborn, they have to
right.
part.
And
It's,
that was the option too. We had
yeah,
a surgical procedure, but it was like, it's over. Do you want to keep going, and it was like, oh my God, I
but
don't even
it's a
want to
life.
decide this.
It's a life.
Mm-hmm.
It's a life that's been taken away for whatever reason and for whatever
Yeah.
purpose. It wasn't meant to be. And obviously there was other plans, but
Yeah, but and then it's again at the same time, it's like, what is my reaction to it? I feel the same way you do. All I could do is think I have to be a better person. I have to be more empathetic. I have to understand that anyone I'm talking to on a given day, this might have happened to them yesterday. They're a cashier, they're my mechanic, and I have
correct.
no idea. So I think the best response, like you said, is to be empathetic and to get a message of positivity out. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but maybe everything that doesn't kill you can make you kinder as well. And maybe that's
100%.
part of that strength.
100%. And
Um,
it's just made me, it completely changed my life. It made me a completely different person to the person I was before. I was, like I said, I was never really a judgmental person, but I was that person that, didn't give people the time that they deserved and that I should have. I was always worried about myself and my family and not what, the stranger on the street corner or the homeless person, what was going on with their life. And I've got to that point now where I do care, you know. And sometimes, and don't get me wrong, sometimes I care too much, you know,
right.
and, it ends up, biting me in the ass and, making me get into that position where, something goes wrong and it upsets me, and when it's got nothing to do with me. So I think I believe, empathy and humility are two things that a lot of people lack in this world right now.
Yeah, 100%. Let me ask. So, how has it manifested your spreading this message into the world? Does it coincide with MetaRides? Is that a completely, like, I would imagine it does. I think you've told me it does, but for
Yeah.
the people listening for the first time, do you want to talk a bit about that
Excuse me. So
and what
yeah.
MetaRides is? I know what it is, but I think we haven't talked about it in the interview
Oh,
yet. So
look,
I'll put a
I'm not overly worried about spreading the MetaRides word. It's more about your podcast.
I
But
understand.
so, in a nutshell, we are the first Web3 brand to bring interoperable assets to the metaverse and gaming. So they're cross interoperable between gaming and metaverse platforms, Unity and Unreal Engine based. Not all platforms, obviously. Some are, there's coding issues with some, but a lot of the platforms there will be interoperability. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what MetaRides is. And how does it coincide? So we have a social responsibility aspect with MetaRides, where we donate part of our proceeds to charity, and those charities are suicide prevention and domestic violence. Clearly, and I've just partnered up with Dominic from Hyped Foundation. He's known on Twitter as Gentle Tornado. So I've just partnered up with him, and I'm helping him with the Hype Foundation. And I'm connecting him to the people in my network that can bring some attention to what he's doing, and that raising awareness of not so much suicide prevention, but mental health before the suicide stage, right? So getting to these youth and teenagers in an impactful way before they get to that stage of having those suicidal thoughts. So as soon as I had the first phone call with him, I knew that it was something I had to do. It wasn't that I wanted to do it; it was something I have to do. You know, and I think that's the difference. Is I a lot of people do it because they feel socially obligated to, right? Well, I feel personally obligated to. It's not a social thing for me. It's personal. So, but yeah, so we will donate part of our proceeds to mental health. Obviously, the Hype Foundation will be one of those, and then suicide prevention. Lifeline and Beyond Earth, and those organisations that look after suicide prevention, and of course, anti-domestic violence charities like domestic shelters who look after the rehoming of victims of domestic violence as they're transitioning from that life to their new life. So those sort of organisations will be the ones that we donate to, because it's close to our heart, and it has meaning for us.
Yeah, of course. So here's a question I always have with donating to charities, And I'm looking to do some sort of collaboration between my own clothing brand and a charity. And I've been thinking about it for a while, and I'm tired of thinking about it. I keep looking at myself in the mirror, being, bro, what the fuck are you thinking about? What is holding you back? And like, as I'm going, okay, let me at least start there. Let's have this conversation about what's holding me back. I'm worried that, like, I don't know what charity to pick because a lot of the charities you pick, the money doesn't end up going to people who need it. And I don't know if I know how to filter through it. And I didn't know if I had someone to ask, but you seem like the best person to ask in this moment. What, like, can you send me maybe a list of the ones? Have you vetted them to make sure it's like not 90% to the CEO, 10% to the kids kind of thing? Because you keep seeing that, or I keep seeing that, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to, I don't want mine, I don't want to try to do the right thing and then just be like funneling into some CEO's pocket. How do we get past that so I could act on this?
So there's organisations out there that you can get that information from. So people like the Giving Block. There's one in Web3 called Charity Token, who they look after a whole range of different charitable and benevolent societies, and they filter through them. So it's exactly for that reason. Now, there's always going to be a percentage of whatever you donate is allocated to administrative. Doesn't matter what organisation it is, right?
Of course, a percent,
So
but
there's always something. So
not 90-10.
no, exactly, and I'm very strong about that too because when I did my research on the Giving Block and on domestic shelters, and obviously Lifeline here in Australia, is that the majority of those funds go to the direct impact of victims of whatever the charity is, suicide or whatever.
Good.
Now, obviously, like I said, there's a percentage that they have to keep for administrative and wages and all of that sort of
As
thing.
long as it's fair.
Of course, it's got to be fair. And so...
No, not of course. Sometimes it's like 90%.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
telling
no.
you, sometimes it's 90%.
Sometimes it's 100%. They take it all. You
Right.
don't know.
Sometimes they don't get
Yeah,
any. Right.
exactly.
And that's what I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to think I'm doing right and then do that.
I mean, in the perfect world, for me, and I'm gonna put my multi-millionaire hat on here, which I don't own yet. I'm gonna put that on now and say, in a perfect world, if we're making a lot of money with MetaRides over the next few years, and I'm in a position to do so, I will start my own foundation and my own charity, and I will put the money into that because I know that 100% of that money will go to impacting the cause that we set it up for. Right, so there'll be no administration costs. I'll probably work that, and however we do it through, trusts and filtering money through business trusts to get it to the charity, so that it's other expenses are covered. Then you've got to be careful. But there's organisations out there, like I said, who you can go to that will give you, the names of charities and organisations that have a majority percentage that goes to directly impacting the people involved.
Now, I think, have you ever gone to groups or have you ever like led groups, like discussions for people affected? Like you ever do that sort of thing?
Yeah. So we do mentoring sessions for domestic violence. I mean, they're really hard to be involved in. It's really hard to sit across the table from, a victim or a perpetrator of domestic violence. So, I've seen the worst, and it's really hard to not become emotional and feel a connection to, because they teach you in the training. Like, I'm not qualified, but I've done certain levels of training that you can do without having a formal qualification. What the organisation does themselves, and but I'm definitely not a qualified counsellor or psychiatrist or psychologist.
Right.
But they teach you the basics, and it's really hard to separate the emotion from the volunteering. When you're sitting across the table from, for example, a lady with 3 kids who's just been beaten to within inches of her life, a week before the meeting, or 2 weeks before the meeting. So it's really difficult, but it has to be done, right? And if we don't put our hands up to say we've had enough and we want to make a difference, who's going to do it? Right. So that's my attitude towards any of these charitable organisations is we can all sit back on our couches and watch Netflix and drink our beer and eat our snacks. Or we can put our hand up and go and volunteer and do something that has an impact on society as a whole. And that's what I choose to do. So, not judging anybody that does sit on the couch and watch Netflix and drink beer, each to their own. But that's not what I choose to do. Whenever I get the opportunity, I will put my hand up to volunteer.
Now, in terms of the people coming to these groups, I know everyone's different, but what is it that people need to hear? Like what words or what approach gets a person from being where they're in the victimhood scenario to being either, they step out of it or ready to step out of it? What is the path? Like how do you get from A to B when you're stuck in this like downward cycle for so long? Or how do you help people, or how do the psychologists, like what is the message or the push to get them out of
I mean, it's really difficult because it's everyone. Every case is a different case. So every person has a different approach. Every person has a different personality and a different sort of anger and hate level. So you need to establish those boundaries of knowing what's happened to this person to create that much level of hate within them towards other people, right? So, but the basis for everything is to reiterate to people that you are loved, you are worthy, you are valued, and that you are better than this, and that there's better things for you in life. And that can be related to suicide or domestic violence, right? If you're a perpetrator, there is better things for you than being a perpetrator. This is within your control. That is something that is within your control. Now, being a victim, there is better things in life for you ahead, right? And the same for those people who are at a stage with their mental health where they're having suicidal thoughts. There is better things in life for you. You are valued, you are worthy, you are wanted, you are loved. Those kind of things are. We just need to reiterate that to people in the world, and like, I I'm one of these people that I just despise hate. No, and I say this a lot in Twitter spaces and other things that I speak in, is nobody's born with hate in their body. Nobody is born a racist or a homophobe or whatever it be, or a discriminator. Nobody is born like that. They are learned behaviors. We are teaching people, not us personally, but as society, we are teaching people that it's okay to hate, that it's okay to be a racist, that it's okay to choose black versus white or green versus gold, or Asian versus Australian. And it's just wrong. We are all humans. When they cut us open, we all bleed the same color. We all breathe the same oxygen. Right? We are all the same. Our skin color may be different and our features may be different, but we are all the same. And we need to start treating each other like we all matter. You know?
Let me ask you this. I don't believe in hate. I think a hate is a false concept. I think hate is a derivative of fear.
Mm-hmm.
So like people go, I hate that. And hate sounds justified,
Mm-hmm.
right? People don't have shame to say I
Mm-hmm.
hate.
Mm-hmm.
I think when people say hate, they mean I am afraid of.
Yeah,
Would you agree that that's really where it's coming from?
absolutely. Absolutely. Like in terms of, for a mental health patient who's becoming suicidal, they can be, I hate people. I hate being around people. I hate being in crowds. Whereas what you're saying is, what they are really should be saying is, I'm scared of what other people are going to think of me.
Yes.
That's why I don't want to be around other
Or
people.
I'm scared of what people say. I'm scared of what
Correct.
people have said in the
Yeah.
past. Yeah, so I think helping getting that language out there too, like getting people from where they are to a language that more appropriately fits
Mm-hmm.
what they're feeling. Because hate is so big and
Mm-hmm.
it's fake. It doesn't
Yep.
hate is like a mask. It's like what I don't even know how to describe how false it is, but it's so, I think, destructive. Like there is no hate. There's a spectrum of fear. It's like level 2 or 3 fear. Like, you know what I mean? It's like level 2 fear, and people go, let's take that off the chart and pretend it has nothing to do with it. No, stop that. It's fear. It's fear. It's only fear. There's different levels of fear, and one of the levels of fear is like so high that you want to like push it back towards where it came from,
Yep.
and that's what people call hate. But it's not hate. you don't really want to hurt the other person. It's like you are so afraid of the other person that now you're in fight or flight, and because of that fear, now you're thinking, okay, I got to fight back, and maybe nothing happened yet, so it looks like an attack, but in your head you're fighting back against something because that's what it is. It's the fear.
And I'll put it into like sporting terms for people who understand sport, right? And you may get a lot of listeners who like sport. Is people say they hate the Yankees, right? Why do they hate the Yankees? They don't hate the Yankees,
Afraid
right?
they'll win.
One, they're afraid that they're better, and two, they are more successful, and people don't like somebody who's more successful. Right, and if you go the other way with with football and with hockey and with any other sport analogy, it's always the most successful teams that people say they hate. Right? How many times do you hear a Yankees supporter saying, "I hate the Orioles" or "I hate the Braves"? Rarely.
Right.
But you'll hear the Braves and the Orioles supporters saying, "We hate the Yankees." You don't hate the Yankees. You're just pissed off they're more successful than you.
Right.
Yeah.
And why? Because you're afraid that if you play them, they'll beat you.
Yeah, exactly. So
Comes right back to the same thing.
it does. So that's just my sporting analogy for people. So, but yeah, you're right though. It's everything. Everything in life is a learned behavior, right? When we come out of the womb and we're born, we know zero. All we know how to do is breathe, right? We don't know anything else.
Yeah.
We don't even know.
I think, yeah.
The only way.
Breathe, cry.
Yeah. The only person that we actually know when we're born is our mother, because we've just spent that gestation period inside them. So you've got a physical connection. You don't even know who your father is until he picks you up.
I even think they don't know. I was thinking about this with my wife the other day. I'm like, I don't know if my daughter knows, like, I'm her dad, or if I'm just this guy that's been around. Like dad is a human concept. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I don't even know if she knows her mom is her mom. She may just know, like, yeah, I plopped out of there. Like,
yeah. I mean,
babies don't know, like,
I think there's that personal connection.
Something instinctual.
There's a connection between
something
mother
primal.
there's a connection between mother and child, yeah, but not father and child.
But I don't know if they like logically, you know what I mean? It's a primal connection, like.
But father and child is still a learned behavior. They have to learn who the father is. They have to learn what his touch is like.
Right. How did she know her grandpa's not
exactly?
He's around a lot too, like.
So and I try to reiterate that to people is that we need to educate better. We need to make racism and hate and war and all of this, religion, whatever it be, we need to make it so that it's not forced onto people and we're not educating people in the wrong way. Right? So I have no issue. Like I was born and raised in an area of Australia where we had a large Indigenous community, right? And they're like your African Americans, right? So in Australia, they're Indigenous people here. And, there's such a bad stereotype on the Indigenous community. But I have never met one of these Indigenous people that wasn't a fantastic human, that wasn't, caring and kind and fitted the stereotype that society's given them. Right? But so many people turn a blind eye because of the stereotype. So many people don't give them a wave or say good morning or talk to them in public because of that stereotype. Stereotypes is something that's created by society.
Yeah.
We need to get rid of it all. I mean, it's not going to change in my lifetime. I can tell you that now. It's not going to change in my lifetime. I mean,
maybe it will.
If you look at what's happening in society today, and I mean, I'm digressing a little bit, but you've got protesters out there sitting on a road and cementing their hands to a road and covering themselves in paint or whatever, protesting oil, but they're wearing shoes and clothing that are manufactured in a plant that runs on oil, and they're driving a car to get to these protests that emits more carbon emissions from the brake pads than anything else in society emits carbon emissions. It's a hypocrite. They're hypocrites.
Yeah.
You know?
I thought about that too. Like, anything you like. I thought about it more with the celebrities that go to protest like the use of oil, and they literally fly a private jet that's burning like oil across the sky, and it's them and they're like six team managers. Like that's the worst.
But
Like,
these vegans, right? And again, I'm not, and again, I don't hate anybody. If you want to be a vegan, you want to be, whatever you
go
want to
for it.
be, each to your own.
Right. Vegans that wear clothes that are coming from
But
animals.
not only
That I've heard. That's through the
but not
roof.
only
That's
that,
like
vegans push this avocados and almonds on you, right? We eat avocados, we eat almonds. How do you think the avocados and the almonds get from California to London in a goddamn aeroplane,
right.
or on a boat?
Well, the vegans, they may not care about the oil. The vegans just care about the animals.
Yeah, but again, how many?
Often they're the same.
But like, how many animals die in a field when a farmer plows the field to get the almonds and the avocados?
Right. That's another thing that yeah, I've seen that too. Like
Absolutely.
there's all these different things.
There
Like if
is,
you
yeah.
really look into the science,
Yep.
like the soybean fields and
Yep.
everything is a hard balance because right, to have the fields creates emissions and then you got to have like tractors and stuff like mowing them and like that create like yeah, everything's kind of a problem. There really is no perfect solution. The perfect solution would be if everybody had a garden in the back of their house and largely made their own food from their little garden, had some chickens, you had a couple eggs and a couple of the peppers you grew every morning and lunch and dinner.
And
But
here's something
we're far from that.
really funny about climate change, right? The Earth's been here 1 billion years. We've been through 2 ice ages. We've been through El Nino. We've been through all of these things, yet we're still here. In the 80s, they told us that El Nino was going to wipe out so many things within 10 years. None of them were wiped out. In the 90s, they
Right.
told us it was the next thing. Global warming was going to wipe out all forestation. There's trees everywhere.
Yeah.
So climate change is an issue forced on us by the government to stop us from focusing on other things in life. That's all it is. We've been here. The Earth's been here 1 billion years. We've got erosion. We've got everything. Yet we're still here. It's not going
Yeah, it's
anywhere.
funny. I heard and this kind of opened my eyes and it was saying if the billionaires and millionaires of the world really believed anything about global warming or all these crises that were going to happen, why would they still be investing millions of dollars into the real estate market and mortgages that are like 30, 40 years? Like these rich people wouldn't do it. It would be a horrible 30 to 40-year
Yeah,
investment if you really believed by that time climate would have wiped people out and they
exactly.
would be defaulting on their mortgages, this and that. So it's like, no, they believe we've got at very least another 30 to 40 years because they just invested in these, like, these real estate
Like
investments.
I don't question the fact that the greenhouse gas emissions affect the ozone layer. Like they probably do.
Right.
They probably do.
But how much?
But like one of the things was, I saw a guy talking about, the cost of renewable energy in the United States, right? And they were talking about setting up these electric solar farms to run all the electric chargers that they need to operate electric vehicles, and they wanted something like $2 trillion. And the question he asked was, what is the reduction in a percentage of the effect of greenhouse gas emissions if we don't build these electric stations to get rid of the petrol, the gasoline operated ones? And the answer was 0.008%.
Pretty low.
So why spend $2 trillion to have a 0.008 effect over a 10-year period? It's pointless.
That's
It's
wild. Yeah.
pointless.
It's totally pointless.
So yeah, I mean, and again, that's just where we're at in society. Everybody wants to, say there's something wrong with the climate so that they get a big chunk of money from the government to go and do research and pay themselves $500,000 a year as these researchers, and that's what it is. It's filling people's bags.
Yeah. I mean, at some point it does make sense that the climate will impact. But yeah, if they really thought it, they wouldn't be investing for the next 40
Yeah.
years. And that's what's happening. So it's like, even if it is happening, it's not happening as quickly as they're telling
Yeah.
us, and we have time to react differently. Or maybe they know. Maybe they know. Oh yeah, by then, on the back end, the government has this, this, and this like policy or technology in place, and we'll implement this by
Yeah.
then. Then we don't even need it. But for now, let's drum up, fear and hype and get money. It's like, and that's what I mean. Like the charities, and you never know, because behind everything, you got to look all the way through to
Yeah.
the bottom, through the paperwork, through the nitty gritty, in between the lines, to go, is this actually helping people, or is this a guy that's putting money in his pocket under the guise of helping people? And
Yeah.
I find it difficult to sort through that a lot of the
Yeah.
time.
I mean, most registered charities and benevolent societies have to produce an annual report. So, you can just go to those annual reports. They're available, in the public forum. You can get those annual reports from I don't know what that's called in the United States, but here it's, the Department of Commerce. And you can get hold of those. And in those annual reports, they're audited. So, you can see exactly where every dollar that comes in is being spent. So you can,
As long as you look.
as long as and that's what I mean. If you really,
Right. So you got to look.
But if you're really that dedicated to donating money to a charity and being selective on that charity, you're going to take the time to look and find the right one.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, on the larger society,
Oh,
a lot of people aren't going to look.
No,
And that's the like,
people who donate to, a GoFundMe or, a charitable event online, and they just send $2 or $5 or whatever. They don't do all that research. But for a business,
right.
Who's, donating a considerable amount of money to these organizations, you have to do your due diligence and your research, because
Yeah, that's me. I'm going to start pairing products to, different charities and put a message behind it. And that's what I've been thinking about forever. But that's it. It's like, now I know. So, you know what I mean? But this is what it is. You got to ask questions. You got to find the right person to ask questions.
Yeah.
I've Googled it before, and so many answers came up. I was like, I ended up doing something else, and waiting until now.
Yeah.
Hey, I kept moving forward. We're here now. But I understand the confusion and people not even being able to get past that first step. So 100% commend you and appreciate you for doing what I got overwhelmed when I saw the Google. I was like, I don't know how to figure this out. I shoved it away. So thank you for, kind of cutting through that so I could go, oh, okay, look for the annual report. Type in annual report, type in the name of the company, do that for all the companies I'm considered. Like, okay, now I get it. So thank you.
Yeah, that's the easiest way is, go through, look at their revenue, look at the, expenses, and where you don't have to go through every single expense, like $2 for a new pen, that's just, look at how much they're spending on stationery, how much they're spending on, internet and communications, wages, vehicle expenses, all of the different things that a charity has. Look at the category and see what those percentages of revenue are being spent on that. And obviously you've got to also take into account taxes and liabilities and things like that. So it's, but it's, it's an industry in itself. The charities are an industry in themselves.
Of course.
Yeah. So
people profit a lot from nonprofits. But let me ask you a different question here. Do you think there's any, so 4 agreements we agree on 100%, we both read it. What other either like books or movies or anything in culture, what could people go to if they're, because some people need like a half step, like if they're not ready to talk to someone one on one or go to a group therapy, or like they just want to get the message themselves in a book or a movie, other than 4 agreements, which again highly recommend. Anything else that we could recommend to people, or just start with the 4 agreements and see where it takes?
Well, you just go, like, there's a government agency in every country for each different area. So there's a government website, and they've got documentation and resources you can just click on and download. So like you can go to Lifeline for suicide prevention, and they've got a whole range of resources that that you can click on and just read. Or you can watch videos. They've got all sorts of resources. If you're not a person who likes to read, you can watch a video, or you can listen to an audio book. Movies is really difficult.
I was going to say pay it forward, if you've ever seen it.
Yeah, pay it forward's a good one. Yep.
I think that'll pierce your heart if nothing else has.
I think they're like any of those movies where it's about caring and kindness. The one that Sandra Bullock's in, where they adopt that African American boy who's a football player.
I didn't see it, but
I can't remember the name of the movie.
was that The Blind Side or is that something else?
I can't remember the name of the movie, but just those sort of movies. I mean, they're all inspiring movies. Whether they're fictional or not, they still inspire you to think. You know, um, books. I'm trying to think what other books. I mean, there's a whole heap of resources that you can get on mental health and suicide prevention and domestic violence and things like that.
I read a book called The Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield. That's pretty eye opening. It goes through all these different. It's a novel, so it's like these people going on some weird adventure or whatever. But through the adventure, they learn certain insights about metaphysics and personality, and it's about attention dynamics. Like people need attention in different ways, and it's like this whole. I didn't even know this was a thing, and then I was like, okay, which one am I? Some people like pity attention.
Mhm,
That's usually the type that leads to like something worse
mhm,
happening. So if the only way you've ever gotten people to recognize you is your parents, the only time your parents really like love you is when you go, I'm sick, oh my god, I hurt my knee, and that gets you more attention than when you bring home an A or a trophy. That leads into stuff. But if you become aware that that's what you're doing, you could switch. Me, I've had moments like that, but after reading this and even before, I'm more of like the showboat. I like to get attention making people laugh or I've won something or but it's all the same thing. And I think they break them down into 4 or 5 categories, but I just found that was super helpful knowing everybody needs attention. Which way are you going to go about it? These 2 to 3 are kind of negative, and these 2 to 3 are kind of like better if you're going to need attention. So it's like, oh yeah, like I'm glad I like so I'm going to shift. I don't want pity ever again. I'm going to become aware of all the times I want pity because I want people to notice me because something about when I was a kid, and I'm canceling that. I only want attention when I did something positive, funny, like
yep.
cool, something other people like. But it's a conscious shift.
And one of the things that people can look for, and this is something that really opened my eyes as well, is you can just go onto Google or any search engine and search for it, and just look for the levels of consciousness. Right, so do a search. Just type in levels of consciousness, and it'll give you a story on the different levels of consciousness that you have yourself. So there's things like um, conscious, unconscious, right? So that's a state of your consciousness where you are conscious of being unconscious, right? And then there's conscious conscience, and so I mean, it's real when you read it and you read the explanations and the examples they give you. Most people go, "Wow, I've been there." You know, that's me. That's where I am now, and it's really interesting to understand those levels of consciousness that you have within yourself that you didn't even know you had until you read that article.
I'll have
Yeah,
to. I'm definitely going to put that
yeah,
out there. I've learned some of it. I've taken psych.
yeah,
I psych minored in college, so I have some framework for
yep,
it. So I roughly know what you mean. But yeah, it's always good to look back on those things because that's true. They say your conscious is the tip of the iceberg.
yes,
Like the whole you that you are that you think is your whole personality. That's about the 10% that's above water, and the other 90% of you,
yep,
you've never fucking met
yep,
that guy. You have no idea who he is.
yep.
Sometimes he takes the wheel though. Sometimes he just fucking directs you, and you're like, "What just happened?" And it's like that's the other 90% of you. That's the real
Yeah,
you,
no, I agree.
and that's part of the goal of life is to integrate them.
Yeah, and I agree. And there's a lot of great motivational people in the world too that you can listen to. I mean, Gary V. I mean, you and I know.
Love them.
Again, like I've been following him for a number of years, well before Web3, and it's just I don't know. He's just got his shit together when it comes to
He
life.
does.
It's when it comes to life and being a decent human being. If there's one person who is inspiring and motivating, it's that man. You know, um,
Yeah, somehow he got it figured out.
he's got to figure it out. Like, and again, he says he doesn't have all his shit together. You know,
Right,
but
but he looks like
but
a
he's
dude.
got. You were just saying that 10%, 90%. He's got the 90% together, and the 10% he doesn't know. whereas most of us are
Right.
the other way around.
Yeah,
But
he's way deeper.
yeah, he's way deeper. He's got so much more out of the water than we have. So, but there's a lot of motivational people like Marcus Lemonos. From he owns Caravan World. I don't know if you know Marcus Lemonis.
Wait, Mark Lemonis? If I
Lemonis.
say one of us is saying it wrong.
Lemonis. However you say it, I don't know. I mean, but he's a great he's a great motivational speaker.
He's on that show, right? I don't know the name of it, but he goes into
Yeah,
businesses and like saves.
yeah.
Yeah, Mark.
He's
Yeah,
a great.
I call Marcus Lemonis,
I
but
like. I call him Lemonis, but it doesn't matter because it's lemon
I like
is.
Lemonis.
Yeah,
I might start calling him Lemon Ass from now on. I think you've I
it's just the
think you've
different
claimed it.
accents, different interpretation. But no, it's
I
like
like it.
yeah, again, you can just go on to YouTube and look up, motivational mental health discussions and things like that. There's a lot
Tony
of
Robbins is good.
yeah, there's a lot of them on a lot of mental health spaces on Twitter spaces. Like we had one last night for the Web3
Oh yeah,
breakfast, or this morning for you for Web3 breakfast, yesterday morning, and it was all about mental health. So, and it's not that there's any experts or any qualified people. It's just people talking about life experience, and life experience counts for a lot.
Craig, I think that's a perfect segue. We are coming up towards the end of this hour here. And towards the end, like I said, we do a shout out. So either if you want to shout out MetaRides or if you just want to shout out where do people go, like when do you have the spaces or wherever to direct people about your message, final words. But, what do you want to tell the people?
I mean, we host our spaces every Tuesday at 8 p.m. EST. And our spaces are in partnership with Income Island Metaverse and Stardogs, which is owned by US actress Darcy Donovan. So, it's a three-way partnership Twitter space every Tuesday at 8 p.m. And then again every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. But, we cover a range of different topics. We normally have a guest come in or a guest product, a project or a founder of a project come in. And we always have some discussion points where we talk. And, sometimes it might be about mental health. Sometimes it might be about the metaverse. Sometimes it might be about music in Web3, whatever it be. There's all different topics that we discuss. But in terms of MetaRides, we're building away. We've got our MetaRides racing game that's on Steam right now. It's in test mode for our holders only, soon to be released to the public. Stage 2 of that is currently under construction. It's being built behind the scenes. We had a really long 2.5 hour call with our development team today. We have a team of 13 developers, and our lead developer is from EA Sports, who was on the development team for Need for Speed. So we have a really great development team and a great leader of our development team who's been through that system with EA Sports on Need for Speed. So it's really cool what he's building, and we just want people to come into our community and our ecosystem. Whether you want to buy an asset, whether you want to be involved in our race game, it doesn't matter. The more people that come in, the more people that can be involved in what we're doing. Whether it be again like this in a mental health role, or whether it be helping out in the Discord or whatever, or whether it just be to make friends. Doesn't matter. It's not about money for us. It's about providing something valuable to the Web3 community and ecosystem that people are going to get some use out of. So, and again, networking is the biggest thing in if you're in Web3, networking is your biggest asset, right? And they say your network is your net worth, right? And it's true, because there's going to be aspects of Web3 that you don't know, right? I don't know everything about Web3. So as long as I've got a network of people I can reach out to who can help, give me guidance and support and advice, then I can grow what I need to grow in Web3. Like you guys at VFriends. I knew nothing about VFriends when I came in. I relied on you and Josh and Nathan and those guys and Corso and them to educate me on the system and how it all worked. And
It's a
it
lot.
is. But this is what I love about the Web3 network is you can reach out to people from all corners of the globe, right? Regardless of color, race, religion, sexual orientation, regardless of what it is, and you can build a relationship and a connection with someone who is 11,000 miles away from you. Like I'm 11,000 miles away from you right now. But we can get on a call and we can connect and we can talk and you can build those relationships. And, that doesn't happen in Web 2, right? It doesn't happen in Web
Yeah,
2. For most people, they live in their little bubble of where they go to work every day. And
yeah,
they talk to the people who are there in the office and then they go home. They don't get to
yeah.
get on a call and call someone in London or someone in Australia or someone in Canada. That's not a luxury that
New York.
New York, the Yankees, hate the Yankees. I'm actually a Yankees fan. That's why I use them as my
That's funny.
my topic there. But yeah, I just want to say to people, like, if I had to send one message to the world, it would be: don't take things personally, control what's within your control, and God damn it, be kind to one another.
All right, so read the four agreements because a lot of that's coming from there. Don Miguel Ruiz, dude nails it. It's pretty succinct. It's not a long book, but it's packed with powerful lessons. And on that message, we'll basically close it out here. We close it out the same way we come in, and that's with gratitude. So, Craig, again, thank you so much infinitely for coming on the show, talking about important topics. We talk about a lot of different topics on the show. One of the closest to my heart, as you said, is suicide, suicidal ideation, suicidal thoughts, bullying, self harm, and then flipping that all around. So, helping people with that, mental health advocacy, and everything we talked about on the show to get people from a dark place to a place of light. It's about passion, it's about positivity. But how do you get to passion and positivity if you're in a really dark spot? You got to get out of there first. So I advocate all realms of passion, and that means I understand that it also is starting from the dark and pushing into the light, not just taking people who are having an amazing time and we only talk about that type of passion. I'm all across the board. So while I welcome people who are at the height of their life, I more than that find it's important to identify people who are not there or who are there but have come from lower to set an example from the world. That's really important to me. So thank you for helping me with that because, like I said, lots of different episodes, but some of them kind of hit closer to home than others, and this is definitely one of them for me. I used to cut myself, eating disorders, drug disorders, all sorts of things. So I get it. Luckily, I'm here, but I get it. So thank you to you. Also, again, thank you to the guests. Anybody listening in the audience, thank you so much for coming. And if you're struggling with anything, I know from, I'm not even going to ask. I know from Craig. I know from me. You could message either of us.
Absolutely.
You want someone to talk to. You're like at that, like, you know what? There's nobody. There's not nobody. Shut the fuck up. I'm here. Craig's here. There's a bunch of other people that are here, but without volunteer, you got at least two, bro. So I don't want to hear it. We're right
Yes.
here. Call me at 3 in the morning. If it's that bad, bro, call me. 516-965-4934. I don't even know if people are like, don't give your phone number out. I don't give a fuck, bro. If somebody's on the edge,
Yep.
call me. I've gotten not many calls. If I start getting 800 calls a day, I may rethink this policy. But right now, it's not many. So if you're one of the few people that needs me, give me a call. Reach out. Um, Again, we thank the higher power. We thank God. Whatever it is you believe in, energy, source, the atoms within us that are held together by the electromagnetic force, the strong and weak nuclear force, and gravity. That shit is fucking magic, if you ask me too. If you're a scientist, where the fuck are these forces coming? Just force, just some imaginary mystical force that holds atoms together. That's magic to me too. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, we give thanks to that. And we give thanks to the listeners. Thank you for coming on the show. Before we end it, Craig, any last thoughts? Mic drop. Oh, we give thanks to MetaRides. MetaRides, in addition to Craig, is also, as he said, holding these spaces, going to these groups. So if you type in MetaRides on Twitter, which is now X, you'll be able to find it. But other than that, Craig, any last words before we tell the people we love them and say
No,
goodbye?
I want to say kudos to you for everything you've been through, and you're still here today, brother. So that's something to be very proud of.
Thank you so much. And on that note, the last thing we always end with is if you haven't heard it today, you are loved. So even if you got no friends, no parents, whatever it is, bro, me and Craig are here. I'm loving you. I know Craig's loving
Absolutely.
you. And like we said, reach out. But if you have not heard it today, you are loved.